There are some things money can't buy. But if there's one thing that the founders of the richest families in the world knew well, it's that money buys access to the right people. So let us take a look at the story of how one German Jewish man named Amschel Mayer Rothschild became the richest man in the world in less than 30 years. Welcome to our channel, the place where future billionaires come to get inspired. It was 1744, and Amschel was born in a tiny Jewish ghetto in Frankfurt, Germany. From an early age, Amschel helped his father in the family business of running a small money-lending shop on Judengasse, literally translated as Judan Street or Jews Street. In medieval German cities, these were segregated areas where Jews were forced to live, work, and often imprisoned. There was no freedom of movement, and they could only travel with special permission from the city's ruler. To identify these communities, each street had to have a sign at its entrance that stated, "Beware of Jews," which often took the shape of a red shield, or Rothschild in German. Amschel's father had a red shield outside his money-lending store, and the young boy would stand inside it every day. He was fascinated by the comings and goings of the aristocrats and merchants, who would visit his father's shop to exchange their money and transact their business. He admired their elegant clothes, their fine manners, and most of all, their access to opportunities and luxuries that were denied to him and his family due to their religion. And he vowed to himself that one day he would find a way to break free from the shackles of poverty and prejudice and become a man of means and influence. And it all started with a red shield. The year was 1798, and the French Revolution was raging in France. As the rest of Europe scrambled to contain the chaos, William, the Landgrave of Hesse-Kassel, found himself in need of urgent financial assistance. William was a member of the German nobility who ruled over a small but wealthy state in the Holy Roman Empire. He was facing a dire situation. His treasury was depleted and his army was demoralized. He needed someone he could trust to handle his finances and bring his state back from the brink. Enter Amschel Mayer Rothschild. At 54, Rothschild had already made a name for himself in Frankfurt as a successful banker and moneylender. He was known for his shrewd business sense and his ability to navigate the complex world of high finance. When William approached him with his proposal, Rothschild didn't hesitate. He agreed to lend the Landgrave the money he needed to turn his army around and secure his state's future. But this wasn't just a simple transaction for Rothschild. It was a chance to forge a deep connection with one of Europe's most powerful nobles. Rothschild saw an opportunity to build a long-term relationship that would open doors for him in ways he never imagined possible. And he knew that if he could help William save his state, he would be rewarded with a level of trust and influence that would change his life forever. With Rothschild's financial backing, William was able to raise a new army and launch a series of successful military campaigns. His state was saved and his reputation was restored. And in the midst of it all, Rothschild watched as his own status rose dramatically. He was invited to join the Landgrave's court and soon became one of William's most trusted advisors. It was an unprecedented position for a Jew, especially one who had started his career in a tiny ghetto. But Rothschild's relationship with William was about to take an even more dramatic turn. In 1806, Napoleon's armies invaded Hesse-Kassel and forced William to flee. Before he left, he entrusted Rothschild with his most valuable possession, his personal fortune. It was a massive amount of money, and Rothschild knew that he had to take extreme measures to protect it. With Napoleon's troops at his doorstep, Rothschild had only hours to come up with a plan. He divided the Landgrave's treasure into 2 equal parts and hid one half in the cellar of his house on Judan Street. Then he took the other half and fled to London, where he deposited it in the hands of a trusted friend. It was a risky move, but it paid off. Napoleon was eventually defeated, and William returned to Hesse Castle. When he learned what Rothschilds had done with his fortune, he was overjoyed. Not only had Rothschild kept his money safe, but he had also managed to grow it. Rothschild had used the money to buy goods and finance British military campaigns, and those investments had yielded significant returns. In fact, Rothschild had managed to double the Landgrave's money. William was so impressed by Rothschild's resourcefulness that he offered him a reward. He gave him a noble title and made him his official banker, granting him exclusive rights to manage his finances. Suddenly, Rothschild wasn't just a successful banker. He was a member of the European aristocracy, and he had accomplished all this in less than 30 years. However, Rothschild wasn't content with just amassing wealth for himself. He wanted to create a dynasty that would last for generations. So he did something that had never been done before. He took his 5 sons and sent them to different parts of Europe to establish branches of his banking business. At the time, this was unheard of. Most businesses were run by a single individual or a small group of partners. The idea of having multiple branches in different countries was revolutionary. Rothschild's 5 sons were all grown up and ready to take on the world. Amschel Jr. stayed in Frankfurt to run the family business there. Salomon went to London, Nathan to Paris, Karl to Vienna, and Jacob to Naples. Each brother was tasked with building a strong banking network in his new city and reporting back to Amschel Sr. about market conditions and investment opportunities. But there was more to this plan than just expanding the business. Amschel Sr. had a secret weapon that gave his network an edge over the competition, his sons. See, the Rothschilds were incredibly close. They shared everything, including their wives, and met regularly to discuss business and politics. This gave them access to information that no other bank could touch. For example, when Napoleon was defeated at the Battle of Waterloo in 1815, Nathan in London heard about it before the official government couriers had even delivered the news. That's because Nathan had a spy network that kept him up to date on everything happening in the war. He used that information to buy up British government bonds, which skyrocketed in value when the news of the victory finally reached London. The Rothschilds had just made a ton of money and cemented their reputation as a financial powerhouse. The Rothschild banking empire was about to enter its golden age. With the European economy booming in the 19th century, the Rothschilds were perfectly positioned to take advantage of the growth. They financed railroads, factories, mines, and even governments. In fact, the Rothschilds were so powerful that they were able to corner markets and manipulate prices to their advantage. For example, when a shipment of silver arrived in London, the Rothschilds would buy up all the silver, so that the price would skyrocket before the Bank of England could get its hands on it. But the Rothschilds weren't just interested in making money. They also wanted to make a difference in the world. They financed major infrastructure projects like the Suez Canal and the railroads that connected Europe to Asia. They also played a key role in shaping the economies of the countries they operated in. In fact, the Rothschilds were so influential that they were often called the fifth column of government. After the military, navy, church, and the king, and then there was Nathan Rothschild, the most famous of the Rothschild brothers. He was known for his eccentric personality and his brilliant mind. He was a patron of the arts and sciences, and was involved in some of the most important intellectual debates of his day. In fact, Nathan was so influential that he was said to have been the inspiration for the character of James Bond. As the years passed, the Rothschild fortune grew and grew until it was worth billions of dollars in today's money. The family's wealth and influence were unparalleled, and they became one of the most powerful families in the world. In the end, Amschel Mayer Rothschild's legacy is one of hard work, determination, and innovation. He took his humble beginnings and turned them into a global financial dynasty. He proved that it doesn't matter where you start in life. What matters is where you're determined to end up. So what will you do with the cards you've been dealt? Will you play it safe, or will you take a risk and go for the win? Only you can decide. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe for more amazing content. And if you want to learn more about the incredible stories of other rich and famous people, click the video on screen now.